Socrates, the man who questioned everything. Without Socrates, Greece would have been nothing. With Socrates, Greece had everything. On the day Athens chose to poison Socrates, it poisoned the very spirit of Greece. The nation was never able to reach such heights again. 25 centuries have passed, yet no one has matched the same brilliance, the same light, the same depth of understanding. By killing Socrates, Greece effectively ended its own greatness. This is evident even now. Had they listened to Socrates instead of poisoning him and abandoned their rigid beliefs as he urged them to do, Greece could have been at the pinnacle of the world today in understanding, consciousness, and the pursuit of truth. But humanity is ignorant. You can forgive them, but you must not forget them. If you forget, the same mistakes will be repeated. Forgive those who poisoned Socrates, but never forget them so that such an event never happens again. The world has seen great individuals, but Socrates possessed something unique, something unparalleled. There was Gautama Buddha, Lao Tzu, Zhuangzi. In Greece, there were Pythagoras and Heraclitus. In Persia, there was Zarathustra, and many others. Yet none of them had the distinctive quality that only Socrates embodied, a scientific approach to everything. And that was Socrates' greatest crime. People around the world today benefit from science, often unaware that Socrates sacrificed himself for the same pursuit of knowledge. He had one simple demand: do not believe anything blindly. Everything must be experienced, tested, and proven. Without evidence, nothing should be accepted. Even if you accept something as true, if you are honest, accept it only as a provisional truth, because who knows? Tomorrow, new evidence might emerge and you may have to revise your understanding of truth. Socrates, the eternal icon of scientific spirit and humility. No one has ever dedicated themselves to the pursuit of truth as Socrates did. Even if you believed you had discovered the truth, which may seem entirely accurate today, flawless, without any possibility of being disproven, Socrates would still insist that the scientific spirit only allows you to accept it as a hypothesis for the moment, because eternity lies ahead. Every day, new evidence and reasoning may emerge that contradict your current truth. You may have to change it to make room for those new truths. This is utterly unique in this world. Socrates was so humble that he remained simply human, never claiming a status higher or more special than anyone else. 25 centuries ago, this was even more remarkable because in every nation there were prophets, messengers of God, sons of God. Against this backdrop, Socrates' humility was astonishing, making him one of the most admirable humans to ever walk the earth. Socrates did not believe in God, but he did not claim that God did not exist either. He was profoundly scientific. He said, "As far as I can tell, it seems there is no God, but who knows what future investigations might reveal. For now, let us assume there is no God, but if one day we discover otherwise, assumptions can change." Socrates did not assert that there was life after death. He said, "I will have to wait and see. Only when I die will I know whether there is life after death, because no one has ever returned to tell us whether it exists." And remember, this was 25 centuries ago. The man was courageous to the point that, when handed poison, he gathered his disciples and said, "You have often asked whether there is life after death. This is a perfect opportunity, an extraordinary one. If I were to die a normal death, there would be no chance to explore this. But now they have given me poison that works gradually. So I will tell you everything up to the very last moment until my tongue stiffens and I can no longer speak." After drinking the poison, he began narrating with closed eyes. "My feet and knees are dead. I cannot feel them. Even when touched, I sense nothing. Life has left them. But remember this, I still feel like myself. Thus, the death of my legs does not affect my consciousness." Then he continued, "Half of my body, the lower half, is now dead, but I remain whole. Half of my consciousness has not died." He went on, "My arms are going numb, my eyes are closing, and I sense that my tongue will stop any moment now. Therefore, perhaps this is my final statement to you. There is life after death. I can see death unfolding. Parts of my body are dead, yet I remain entirely alive. Nothing has been lost. Thus I am certain that when my tongue ceases, my eyes close, and my heart stops beating, it will not matter. But do not take my word for it. This is just my hypothesis. When you die, try to explore this for yourselves." What a scientific mind! I admire Socrates for his humility, for his scientific spirit, for not creating a religion, a theology, or a sect, and for not declaring himself a prophet. Socrates was as refined and educated as you can imagine. There was always a temptation for him to declare himself a saint. With such a declaration, he could have been venerated and avoided the poison. Those who killed him might have worshipped him instead, building temples and continuing to honor him. It takes immense courage to possess such clarity of mind, such awareness, and yet remain humble, entirely human, even knowing full well that this path leads to death. Sooner or later, these very people would kill him, those he was striving to liberate from their chains. Yet, Socrates chose to remain human. This is why there is no religion following Socrates, no churches, no theology, no scriptures. A person like Socrates does not make you happy because he speaks the truth of your situation, that you are a prisoner and must escape. People are inherently lazy. They do not wish to change. They want comfort. Someone appears as if sent from above, from God, telling them, "You are perfectly fine. Just believe in God. Spend 2 minutes praying every night and everything will be fine." This is comforting because it spares them the trouble of change. People like Socrates seem dangerous because they shatter your comforts. They take away your assumptions, exposing you to reality. Their work is surgical. It is painful, but it is the only way for a new being to be born. Socrates lived in the small city-state of Athens, not even part of Greece. Athens was a self-governing city, and throughout his life, he remained an Athenian. The verdict declared that at sunset, Socrates would be given poison. He looked out the window and said, "The sun has set. The man preparing the poison is late. Tell him not to delay. He should not be late in his duty." The man arrived and said, "You are a strange person. Out of affection for you, I deliberately delayed so you could live a little longer. I have administered poison to many people. It is my job, but my heart trembles, my hands shake. What I am doing feels so wrong. I wanted to postpone this as long as I could." Socrates replied, "Do not. That would be wrong. You must do your job and not let personal feelings interfere. Besides, I am eager to die. I have lived a full life and know all its secrets, but death is a great journey, an unknown adventure. So do not delay. Bring the poison." There have been those unafraid of death, and we have killed them. Such people have truly known life. That is why they do not fear death. Deep down, they know something will continue, but they lack evidence. Thus Socrates would not speak of it. He would only speak with proof, such devotion to the scientific spirit. The final stand of a truth seeker. When Socrates was sentenced to drink poison, Athens was a self-governing city-state with a direct democracy. Every citizen, except slaves, had voting rights, and every decision required the city's consensus. The head of the court, the person responsible for determining whether the majority of Athenians approved or opposed poisoning Socrates, was in a difficult position. He must have possessed some understanding and discernment. He must have seen that Socrates was a simple, pure soul, like a child. Socrates had committed no crime. He had never harmed anyone. This was what Socrates protested in court. "Tell me, what crime have I committed?" There was no crime, no charges against him. The head of the court whispered to him, "Your crime is that you are a natural being. I cannot say this aloud because I know that if they cannot forgive you, they will not forgive me either. But I deeply admire your purity, and I do not want someone like you to be destroyed. You are an exception, but you prove that everyone can be pure, sincere, lively, and full of joy. I offer you 3 choices. The first choice is simple. Athens is self-governing, so its laws do not apply beyond its boundaries. You can move out of Athens. You can establish a school or academy, and those who admire you will come to you. I am sure that the younger generation is deeply impressed by you, only the older generation. But in ancient times, the older generation always formed the majority because 9 out of 10 children died within 2 years of birth. The young were never the majority. They were always a minority. The head of the court continued, "You only need to leave Athens." Socrates replied, "That would be cowardice. Death will come sooner or later. I am old enough, but I do not want future generations to remember Socrates as someone who fled Athens out of fear of death. Forgive me, but I cannot leave Athens." The head of the court said, "Then the second option is for you to stop teaching. Live in Athens, but do not speak of your truths. Do not talk about how people should be honest and trustworthy." Socrates replied, "You are asking me to do something impossible. What is life if I cannot live to my full potential? When a tree blooms, its flowers must be present, and its fragrance must reach those willing to receive it. I will continue to speak of the truth, and I will continue to encourage people to live naturally and not become hypocrites." "Then I cannot help you. The third option is that you must accept the poison, because most people, though they have no evidence against you, claim that your presence is corrupting. Your mere existence is said to corrupt the youth. Your presence is said to lead the youth away from the ancestral path. Your presence is said to make individuals decisive, emboldening them to seek freedom and stand alone, even if it means opposing society as a whole." Socrates replied, "That is fine. I can accept the poison. I will die for a noble cause. I have lived in radiant glory, and I will die at my peak." It is said that Socrates once remarked, "When I was young, I thought I knew everything. As I matured a bit, I realized there were so many things I didn't know. As I grew older, I became confused because I used to know so much when I was younger, and now I know less and less." Finally, before his death, he said, "I know nothing." In Greece, there was a temple in Delphi, home to an oracle renowned for her many predictions. On the very day Socrates declared, "I know nothing," at that same moment, the oracle at Delphi proclaimed that Socrates was the wisest man in the world. Those who had traveled to Athens to consult the oracle rushed back to bring the news to Socrates, for such an honor from the oracle was rare, being named the wisest man in the world. When they recounted the oracle's proclamation, Socrates laughed and said, "I used to be that way when I was very young, when I was arrogant, when I was egotistical, but now I know nothing." But the people insisted, "The oracle is never wrong." They returned to Delphi and confronted the oracle, saying, "This time, you must be mistaken because Socrates denies it. He says, 'I know nothing.'" The oracle laughed and replied, "That is precisely why I declared him the wisest man in the world. Only the wisest man in the world would have the courage, the purity, and the humility to declare, "I know nothing." Socrates never did anything that could be described as stemming from arrogance, anger, or envy. He stood apart from the crowd, uninterested in politics. He was never an angry man. There is a story about Socrates' wife. Surely she must have been a real demon. But sometimes in life, even gentle souls like Socrates end up with difficult partners. It's peculiar, but perhaps it's nature's way of balancing things. Maybe only someone like Socrates could tolerate such a woman. I don't think any other man could live with her for even a day. She often struck Socrates, and he would just sit quietly. When his disciples asked him about it, Socrates would say, "That's her problem. She's angry. What can I do? It's her issue. She's suffering, and out of her suffering and anger, she lashes out at me. I just happen to be sitting nearby, so she hits me. But it's her problem, not mine. I don't take it personally." One day, while Socrates was teaching his students, his wife appeared, furious. She was particularly angry because he spent so much time sharing truths about freedom and philosophy, leaving little time for her. People from distant lands would come to listen to him, and to her, it seemed like he was wasting his time on strangers, people who didn't truly care. She sat there boiling with rage. She was his wife, yet he barely gave her any attention. This complaint, it seems, is universal among women worldwide. Their husbands play chess with friends enthusiastically, smoke cigars joyfully, or start their mornings engrossed in the newspaper while their wives shout only to be met with "yes, yes," before they snore off to sleep. Meanwhile, they eagerly engage with strangers. So, Socrates' wife, seething with anger, prepared tea, but Socrates continued his endless conversation, letting it stretch past tea time and into lunch. Enraged, she stormed in and poured the entire pot of hot tea over his head. Half of his face was burned, leaving scars. Yet he remained unfazed. Everyone present was in shock. They completely forgot the topic they had been discussing. Socrates, however, continued speaking. They asked, "Do you even remember what we were talking about?" He replied, "Yes, of course. That was her issue, not mine." Now you see, this man never got angry, never sought to prove himself superior, never showed any inclination to claim he was extraordinary. He simply lived as an ordinary man, yet with an extraordinary spirit.